Hello children! You need the energy to play, run, jump and read, etc. Isn't it? You know that food provides us energy. We eat solids, we drink liquids and we breathe gases. Is it not a wonder that all these are carried to every cell of the body? Do you know how this is possible? The nutrients and oxygen are carried by the blood to all cells and produce energy required for all life processes. I am Bindu. Will now explain to you in detail about the topic of transportation in animals from the lesson Life Processes of Class 10th Biology. In unicellular organisms, substances may not have to be transported to longer distances, while in multicellular forms, substances have to be sent to long distances. For example, over 100 feet for the tallest plant on the earth. In lower organisms like amoeba, hydra, etc., all the materials are transported through a simple process like diffusion, osmosis, etc. In higher animals with trillions of cells in their body and the bulk movement of materials by diffusion and osmosis would take years. To avoid such delay, a separate system is needed to transport the materials much faster and more efficiently. Transport means to carry things from one place to another. In larger organisms, transport of nutrients, salts, oxygen, hormones and waste products around the body are performed by the circulatory system. The circulatory system consists of the circulatory fluids, the blood and lymph, and the heart and blood vessels, which form the collecting and transporting system. Learning outcomes. After studying this chapter, you will be knowing about types of circulatory systems, the composition of blood, the structure of blood vessels, the structure of the heart, the valves of the heart. Keywords: circulatory system, transport, heart, arteries, veins, capillaries, atria, ventricles, mitral valve, semilunar valve, plasma, red blood cells, RBC, white blood cells, WBC, platelets. Let us see the circulatory system in this concept map. Types of circulatory system. Animals possesses two types of circulatory systems: open type, closed type. Open type. In the open type, the blood is pumped by the heart into blood vessels that open into spaces called sinuses. These sinuses are the body cavities called hemocoel. The capillary system is absent. Example: arthropods, mollusks and acidans. Closed type. In the closed type, the blood flows in a complete circuit around the body through specific blood vessels. The blood flows from arteries to veins through small blood vessels called capillaries. Example: vertebrates. William Harvey, 1628, discovered the closed circulatory system. Blood. Blood is a red-colored fluid connective tissue. The oxygenated blood is deep red colored, salty in taste, and its pH is 7.4. Blood is composed of mainly two components called the fluid plasma and the formed elements or blood cells. Plasma. It is slightly alkaline, containing a non-cellular substance that constitutes about 55% of the blood. Organic substances like proteins, glucose, urea, enzymes, hormones, vitamins and minerals are present in plasma. Formed elements of blood. Blood corpuscles are of three types: red blood corpuscles, RBC, or erythrocytes; white blood corpuscles, WBC, or leukocytes; blood platelets or thrombocytes. You have learned in detail about blood composition, blood cells, blood groups and blood donation in the 8th and 9th classes. So, to refresh them, once again watch those videos. Blood vessels. The blood vessels are a network of branched tubes that transport blood. Marcello Malpighi in 1628 to 1694 could see tiny blood vessels that were invisible with the naked eye with the help of microscope. There are three types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries. They are thick elastic vessels that carry blood away from the heart to various organs of the body. All arteries carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery, which carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Veins. Veins are thin and non-elastic vessels that transport blood to the heart from the different organs. All veins carry deoxygenated blood except the pulmonary vein, which carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Capillaries. Malpighi called very thin blood vessels as capillaries, from the Latin word for hair, because they were very thin as the finest of hairs. Capillaries are narrow tubes formed by the branching of arterioles, which then unite to form the venules and veins. They are about 8 micrometer in diameter. Capillaries are formed of a single layer of endothelial cells. Let us see the difference between artery and vein in the table shown here. Heart. Structure and functions. The heart is a pear-shaped structure, triangle in outline, wider at the anterior end and narrower at the posterior end. The size of our heart is equal to one's own fist and it weighs about 360 grams. It is covered by a double-layered peritoneal membrane. A fluid is present between two membranes, due to which the heart is protected from friction and mechanical shocks. The human heart is a muscular organ. It is made up of involuntary cardiac muscles. They contract and relax with a definite rhythm. It is called the beating of the heart. The heart is divided into 4 parts by grooves or septa. The 2 upper parts are called the atria, or auricles, and the lower ones are called the ventricles. The left atrium and ventricle are smaller when compared to the right atrium and ventricle. The blood vessels found in the walls of the heart are coronary vessels that supply blood to the muscles of the heart. The walls of the ventricles are relatively thicker than atrial walls. The septum between auricles and ventricles prevents the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. In 1628, William Harvey described the mechanism of circulation in the body. He proposed a theory that our heart is a muscular pump by which blood is circulated in the body. He discovered the working mechanism of the valves of the heart. In 1574, an Italian doctor, Girolamo Fabrici, was studying the veins in the leg and noticed small valves in them. Later, Harvey observed valves between each atrium and its ventricle, and they were one-way valves. They allowed the blood to flow from the atrium to the ventricle without any hindrance. When the heart contracted, however, no blood in the ventricle could flow back into the atrium. The right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body through the main veins: superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and coronary sinus. Pulmonary veins bring oxygenated blood to the left atrium from the lungs. The right and left auricles pump blood into the right and left ventricles respectively. The ventricles form the lower part of the heart. The two ventricles are separated from each other by an interventricular septum. The left and right ventricles have thick walls because the ventricles have to pump out blood with force away from the heart. From the right ventricle arises the pulmonary trunk that bifurcates to form the right and left pulmonary arteries. The right and left pulmonary arteries supply deoxygenated blood to the lungs of the respective side. The left ventricle is longer and narrower than the right ventricle. The walls are about 3 times thicker than the right ventricle. The left ventricle gives rise to the aorta. The oxygenated blood is supplied by the aorta to various organs of the body. The coronary arteries supply blood to the heart. Valves. The valves are the muscular flaps that regulate the flow of blood in a single direction and prevent the black flow of blood. The heart contains 3 types of valves. Right atrioventricular valve. It is located between the right auricle and the right ventricle. It has 3 thin triangular leaf-like flaps and is therefore called a tricuspid valve. The apices of the flaps are held in position by chordae tendineae arising from the muscular projection of the ventricular wall. Known as papillary muscles. Left atrioventricular valve. It is located between the left auricle and the left ventricle. It has 2 cusps and is therefore called a bicuspid or mitral valve. Semilunar valves. The major arteries like the pulmonary artery and aorta leaving the heart have semilunar valves which prevent backward flow of blood into the ventricles. They are the pulmonary and aortic semilunar valves.